Good evening and welcome to Flashbang Wallop, our podcast about photography by photographers. Tonight I'm joined with Damien. Hello, Dammo.
Hello, all good?
And Ian. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yeah.
Great, great. Unfortunately, I missed last month's show where we had the delightful Sarah on the show, and the guys here had a marvelous interview with her, and we saw some wonderful images. It's still on the website if you want to have a look at that. But by all means, have a look in. So tonight we're back to the format. Unfortunately, our colleague Neil can't join us tonight. So the guys here, we're going to talk about a few of the items that we've seen in the news that we think might be of interest. So let's move on to our first item. Ian, you went to, what was it called? Fotofest?
Yeah, Fotofest, held by Fotospeed, and it was held at Bath Spa University this time around. I think they've done it a few times. They skipped last year, and I went the year before. And it's just a day of speakers. So this year you had Alex Nail, Simon Baxter, Rachel Bigsby, and Joe Cornish. I mean, hopefully our viewers know Joe Cornish, I'm sure, because yeah, one of our leading landscape photographers. And yeah, they have a small marketplace there. The emphasis on the word small, it was a bit poor, but I'll come on to that in a minute. Yeah, it was a good day. Long way to go for me from Cornwall. And the weather was horrific. I put a little video up in a minute when I got there. Unfortunately, it was about a 5-minute walk from the car park to the actual lecture theatre, and I got drowned, absolutely drowned. And the problem is the rain just ran off my coat, so I just had wet trousers all day, sitting there watching speakers with just wet trousers. So, which wasn't ideal. That put me kind of in a bad frame of mind, really. I wasn't sort of in the right headspace. First talk was Alex Nail, just phenomenal. And unfortunately, sort of my bad luck continued because I sat on one side of the room. They had a massive screen. They had Alex in the middle with the projector and another screen on the right hand side, and I sat on the left. And Sod's Law, a couple of slides into the presentation, and that screen dies, stops working, doesn't it? So I didn't see Alex's images that well. But yeah, Alex Nail, yeah, worth checking out. Amazing sort of mountain photographer, I guess you sort of describe him as. There's a lot of high altitude stuff, camping, just phenomenal. Then we had Simon Baxter, sort of primarily woodland photography, again brilliant. Interesting. You sort of have I had a sort of an opinion. I knew Alex. I've actually got one of his books, which probably won't surprise you guys because you know I like to collect my books. Simon, I know of him and I've followed some of his work, but as a person on his YouTube and that, I'm sort of not someone I sort of clicked with, if you know what I mean. I didn't sort of had reservations about him, but as a speaker, he was very good images. Took some good points away. Then we had after lunch. Then we had lunchtime. It stopped raining, and I must say, Bath Spa University, what a beautiful campus. So I went off for a walk, which was really nice. Managed to dry the trousers out, in the sunshine. They got a lovely couple of lakes there. Took a shot for Dammo. There's a lovely building reflected in one of the puddles. Yeah, just really nice. And then after the break, we had Rachel Bigsby, wildlife photographer. She was superb. She had great enthusiasm about the images. Just really passionate, which is nice. You can have the best images in the world, but if you can't sort of speak about them and show that passion, I think the talk can be a bit sort of flat, but not at all. And then Joe Cornish at the end of the day, just superb. I think the nicest thing about sort of Joe Cornish was he had a lovely display of prints out, and it was a job to get at him at one point because people just flocked to him. They were beautiful, and he spoke for a good sort of hour, just without sort of really any notes or anything, just going through slides. Very, very good. As I say, they on their website they said the marketplace was going to be bigger and better than sort of ever. And to be honest, it was pretty disappointing. Canon were there with just a handful of bodies and lenses. Epson were there. Fotospeed were there doing their paper. The guys that run the event. You had London Camera Exchange with just a really poor show. To be honest, they just had like a few sort of memory cards on the table for sale. It was quite poor. I almost think really, other than Fotospeed being there to sell their paper, they'd be better off just focusing on the talks, and maybe give up on the marketplace, because you couldn't really call it a marketplace. But it's worth doing. The difficulty for me was I spent sort of 7 hours in the car, because I went up, did the talk, then sat for 4 or 5 hours in a chair listening to talks, and then drove home again. So I would do it differently if I went again. But yeah, if you want to get inspired and listen to some of the leading photographers, it's worth going for that.
How much did you pay for it, Ian?
It was 45 £45, which was it was a little bit steep this year. I think it was 2 years ago, it was 35. And there was the arrangement that they had this time where they weren't allowed to put any like teas and coffees and stuff on. You had a Costa coffee place there. So they advised you sort of to take your own lunch, whereas previously they did provide sort of teas, coffees, and a lunch. They are already doing tickets for next year though, for £20, like an early special deal. So yeah, I'll probably take advantage of that. But there was a good number of people there. I think it was a success. So yeah. But when £45, I mean, it feels a bit steep, I guess. When you're talking four speakers, just over £10 each, yeah, it's not bad value really.
Do you think the part of the problem is that because they don't sell an awful lot of these shows, that's why they don't bother to put up a big stand? Is it just a financial thing?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't. Yeah, I don't know what The thing is, when you have the likes of Canon, Nikon, and that go to these shows, they never sell the gear. They're just there to show the stuff. Then normally you have people like Wex, London Camera Exchange, that actually are selling the gear. So I guess Canon and Nikon have to look at it and go, well, I mean, there must have been 150 to 200 people there, but that's not a lot of people. And if you think to send say two Canon reps to Bath with a load of equipment, what's the return on investment? As I say, I don't think the event really should be sort of marketed as a marketplace. I think they should focus just on the talks, to be honest, and maybe a printing workshop, because at the end of the day, Fotospeed is about printing papers. Maybe have Epson there, and maybe just do a bit of a Q&A workshop around printing. It's not the event to go for gear at all.
What do you think of his attempt to copy you, Dammo,
what
with his reflection photo?
I was going to ask Ian, what advice would you give to people when selecting shows? When do you think that you've got a good show on your hands, or you haven't got a good show on your hands? I mean, you went to a good show, and I went to a good show down in London. But I mean, what do you think makes a good photography show to go to? They seem to be better at a smaller scale than the photography show itself, where I find it's just all over the place. It's much more focused when you can focus just on to a more linear turnover of the speakers.
Yeah, I mean, I do think this either sort of hands-on stuff or speakers is the way to go. I think the photography show is great, but you have to be planned, because it is such a big event. If you just turn up, it can be quite overwhelming, and there's all these different stages, and it's easy to not sort of keep track of what's going on. Now, I always beforehand, I'd sort of make a note, and I literally put in my calendar, right, I want to see this person and they're on this stage at this time. So I know I need to be there sort of 15 minutes before. It's a bit, you have to be sort of organised to take advantage of it, because, I did it last time. Joe Cornish was on on the Saturday morning at the photography show, he was literally on a stand, literally just after the doors opened, and I just made a beeline for it and managed to get a seat. And that's the way you have to do it, I think. Otherwise, you miss out on some great talks.
I put myself in for a talk at Birmingham City University, and they've got a list of some really good national photographers talking about um, how the country's changing under climate change and what their pictures are showing about it. So I'll be able to report on that next time.
Great. Okay. Dammo, you've been at it again, haven't you? We can't keep you off the BBC TV. Do you want to tell us about this?
Yes, it's just the weather watches. When I go out, I take a picture, okay, and then on the app that you get with the weather watches are loaded up, and then you may get local recognition. You might not even be recognized. I mean, it's a very low percentage return. Probably every 20 pictures I put out there, maybe one makes the local weather forecast. But then sometimes you strike lucky and you get on the national news. I've been on the national news several times, but I got on again last week and was on breakfast time. And yeah, I was quite chuffed because sometimes I just don't worry about it. But this time I thought, oh, I'll put it on the Instagram and let people know I was on the national news. And before you know where you are, everyone's saying, oh, well done, how fantastic it is. Where I'm just doing it all the time and taking the pictures. But it was really good. I learned that weather watches now, those pictures you see on the BBC weather, it's coming up to 10 years old. So watch this space because I might get interviewed about how I take my pictures for weather watches. So yeah, it's very interesting. Invariably, there's so many good people now taking pictures.
Dammo, have you got the link for the Weather Watchers app? And I'll put it up on the screen. So do you want us, have you got a copy of that or do you know where to get it?
Yes, the Weather Watchers app is not necessarily an app. You just search for BBC Weather Watchers, and then it throws you into a special website, which is very easy to use, where you put the temperature in, you put what the conditions are, and then you upload your picture. And it's very simple. And literally takes only about a minute. Um, and invariably, you won't get selected. But if you're persistent, you will get selected. And it's really good fun to get selected. I mean, there's countless pictures that I considered have been really good. I've not actually made it. And then occasionally some of them make it.
Yeah, what Damo hasn't explained is he submits 1,000 images a day.
No, no.
Uh,
I I probably put up about one or two a day. I mean, there are some people who go for it and rattle them all off, but one or two a day, and then that's it. Some days don't even bother. But uh, my hit rate is probably about 1 in 20, 1 in 25.
I think also something had to do with the quality of the pictures you submit, Damo. You do put some great images up.
I do notice some very serious landscape photographers also do BBC weather watches, so I'm not alone. I have seen some famous names up there, but they're very quiet about what they're getting up to. But there are some good people putting their pictures in.
I don't know whether you saw this week, guys, the countryside BBC show has shown their 12 images for their calendar, asking people to submit the vote for the best one. If you follow onto the BBC website, you can find that some very, 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 very good shots. Well, so I've put the link up here if anyone wants to go and have a look at those photographs. Submit a vote. I think one or two of them are excellent. So we'll see what we think there. Also on the BBC, we've noticed a program on the iPlayer, which you thought was well worth a watch, Damo. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yes, it's an hour documentary on Martin Parr and his photography, and it is a delightful but really educational film and documentary about the man and how he takes his pictures. It's really worth seeing. That the pictures of such high quality, and he takes everyday pictures, and you just wonder how he does it. And the secret is shown in the show.
I've not seen it Yeah, a friend mentioned it actually, and I've still not watched it. But looking at the picture on iPlayer, I mean, he stood by the seaside. He's got this massive Canon SLR around his neck and a flash on it, and that's not what I envisage of a street photographer. I imagine something a bit more discreet. So is that how he's shooting?
You just have to watch him in action and you
Mm,
think he's taking a picture, but people are going past him and don't even realize he's taken the
Mm.
picture because he just blends into the background and he just looks like a guy just quietly wandering around. Then suddenly he clicks, and then suddenly it's like people look and he's just wandering off doing it. You have to watch it, Ian. It's
Mm.
really entertaining and very clever. And how he gets people to do it is just amazing.
Well, I appreciate that, Dammo, but we don't want to have all our viewers going off watching TV. So please go and watch it after you've watched Flashbang Wallop. We like to stay here for the show. And if I could ask you to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button for us, that all helps us in our progress up the charts. There's a link here for where you can do it. So yeah, give us a link and give us a like. So let's move on. We've got a couple of bits of gear that we want to talk about briefly tonight. The first one being a Sigma lens. Ian, you're our Sigma lens expert, so you want to tell us about this one?
Am I? Yeah, so Sigma have announced the world's first full frame 20 to 200 f3.5 to 6.3 for Sony and L mount. Um, yeah, I thought this was quite interesting. I mean, it's a long focal range. I had something similar when I had a Canon crop sensor, an 18 to 200, and I thought it was amazing that when I first got it, look, I can do 18 to 200, and it was terrible crop quality when I look back. Um, so it'd be interesting to see, when the reviews start coming out for this lens, how it performs, because typically these super zooms, you know, they're not great at either end of the scale, like the 20 and the 200. And then somewhat, they normally find the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle around f8. So it'll be interesting to see how it performs, because I mean that is a very useful, range, isn't it? I mean, 20 mil is a very good sort of wide angle landscape, especially on full frame. And then 200 mil, I mean it's very versatile, but it'll come down to what the quality's like. Obviously, it's not the fastest lens in the world. 6.3, you're going to need some good light at that 200 mil end, um, and you're also going to struggle to to sort of throw your focus, to get that sort of nice shallow depth of field at 6.3, even at 200. But yeah, it's coming in at $999. So I don't know what that's going to translate in pounds with everything that's going on in the world. It's probably going to still be £1,000 in that lens. But yeah, I'll be interested to see when the reviews come in. Dammo, you had a question.
The question is, do you think is this set at a portrait end or is it set for the landscape photographer? Do you think
I think it's aimed at the travel person
the
that
travel?
covers all of that range, doesn't it? 20 to 2. It's a good potentially it's a good what I'd call like a walkabout lens, because you've got that sort of versatility. 1 minute you can be shooting, like you say, the landscape shot, and then the next minute you've spotted something off in the distance, and you can shoot that. I mean, the other thing to bear in mind with this is it's not an internal zoom. So when you see the pictures, I mean, when it's fully extended to 200 mil, I mean, it's almost it like doubles in length as a lens. So that's just something to be wary of. But look, Sigma have been doing really great stuff with lenses, haven't they, in recent years? So it'll be, yeah, as I say, it'll be interesting to see when the reviews come out, what the quality is like.
I suppose it saves you having to carry a camera bag with multiple lenses if you are doing a travel large or if you're going to a specific site, a stately home or something like that, where the range of lenses you need are quite large. So I can see the attraction for the
Hmm.
speed and convenience, provided you're prepared to lose the quality and speed on the lens. How much did you say it
Hmm.
was, Ian?
It's coming in at $999, so I don't know the UK price yet, but I mean it's going to be a similar price, isn't it? I think
And it's only Sony and L
in
mount.
pounds,
Canon's
unfortunately.
still. sorry, it's only Sony and Elmac
Yeah.
and still refusing to allow the R lens, aren't they? I'll show an image here. You can see that the yeah, that's quite an extension when you put it to full 200. Changes the dynamics of the lens quite a bit. Okay, great. All right, let's move on. The other interesting piece we were going to talk about um, was unfortunately, we've all had a laugh at Neil isn't here with us tonight. During the last couple of shows, he's kind of taken a little bit of Mickey out of Fuji for their naming convention. And lo and behold, what have we here? Ian, do you want to express this one about the Nikon as well? Let me show up the website.
Yeah, it's not much of a news story really, but yeah, Nikon basically the ZF, which has been a camera that's been out a few years, is the full frame mirrorless camera that's got like that retro styling, a bit like Fuji. To be honest, I think Nikon stole it from Fuji, if I'm honest with you, that retro styling. Um, well, they've done a massive update and they're going to release it in a silver color, which is just, oh, it's just unreal, isn't it? People will buy it though, won't they? So, but yeah, you can.
It's a nice camera because I know someone who's got one, and for those who likes all the little knobs and the whistles and things to fiddle with, it really is retro, and it's a nice camera. It feels nice
Mhm.
and it looks good. I just feel that it maybe looks a little bit too over. It's got about four, from what I can remember, there's four knobs to twiddle on the top. Where you get into the Fuji, it's a little bit more simplistic. But you can't do, I can't argue with the style. It looks a very stylish,
Mhm.
and it has that Nikon quality about it.
And if you look here, it's available in 6 snazzy colours as well. They've gone full hog on this. I love it. Okay, so we'll look forward to Neil coming back so we can have a little bit of fun on that. Now, we want to have a chat tonight about phones and their capability. As you might be aware, Apple released their new iPhone 17 this week, which has got enhancements to its camera system. And along with AI, the photographs you can take out of these cameras, phone cameras, not just the iPhone, but the Samsung, and I think the Pixel again is another particularly impressive camera for a phone for taking photography. Um, but is it doing in cameras? Obviously, there's been a huge fall off in sales for compact cameras because that's been the biggest market hit. But I think we were looking at a point here where um, Canon apparently sold more DSLRs in 2024 than Fuji sold all of their types of camera, but they're still in, you know, minor comparison to the number of phones that have been sold. So the latest iPhone I saw last week, the thing now there is this, they have this new feature. It's a square chip, and you're able now to take, if you're holding the phone in portrait mode, you can change to landscape mode without altering the aspect of the phone. So now it can switch between portrait and landscape literally while you're looking at the picture. Which I think has been a lot of phones are capable of, but this is actually a new thing that you can actually switch as you're taking the photograph, or of course you can do it in post. So the image taken is a square image, which you then manipulate how you want. There's been rumors that part of the reason for this is that Apple may be contemplating a folding phone, and obviously the image size when you open a phone up is square. So the image would be much more suitable to a folding phone than the typical phone at the moment. Both of you use phones for taking photographs as well, I know, like I do. I use my iPhone for a lot of video work. How does that integrate in with you in using a phone and a camera?
Well, I use a phone a lot, but if I'm going out to do what I say proper photography, then I still reach for my SLR and I won't touch the phone. Although I do, if I'm out with the proper camera, um, I will use the iPhone to sort of frame shots up. And I think we spoke about it before. There's a great app called Viewfinder that lets you put in your sensor size and lets you put in different focal ranges. So I quite often use that to go, right, well what would this shot look like at 24 mil. So that's really useful. But I found the announcements pretty underwhelming, to be honest, from Apple. But then unfortunately, I've got an iPhone 16 Pro, so it's not my year to upgrade. I've got a few years where I don't need to upgrade. But I've been working on something recently, which is why I sort of mentioned this topic, because I actually think there's still an emphasis very much on the hardware, lenses, sensors, megapixels. And I think there's still some opportunities. I've been working on something recently where I'm finding some frustrations with the iPhone. I can't force it into macro mode. It will go into macro mode if you get close to something, and you can turn macro mode off, but you can't force macro mode on. There's no manual focus. Why is the iPhone not doing, say, subject detection? I appreciate that if you point a camera at someone, it will put a square around their face. It's doing subject detection to a degree, but you can't, say, select insects or birds or focus stacking. Why can't the iPhone takes amazing macro shots? With the number of frames a second it could do, you could focus stack. So I appreciate Apple want to keep the interface simplistic, but maybe the option to turn some pro features on in settings would be really useful. I think there's a lot more. There's actually more on the software side that they could be doing now, which they're not. I appreciate you could buy a third-party app to do some of this stuff, but I don't want to. I'd rather just use the native app. So it's interesting because I've been using it a bit more sort of seriously lately, and coming up against these limitations which I didn't expect to come up against.
Dammo, your use?
So I have to hold my hand up and say I'm part of the iPhone family. So I do get a lot of ridicule from the Galaxy users and the Google phone users who say we've already got that sort of zoom, we already can do this sort of thing. And I think to myself, well, that's great, but I'm stuck in the iPhone family, and it does me well. And the limitations with the iPhone I see is that it sometimes super saturates images, so blues come out very blues, and you have to sometimes play around with the images. I I do use the raw function, but the trouble is the raw function is it just takes a lot of space out of the iCloud. I'm not resenting having to pay more money for the iCloud, and therefore I'm very make sure that I eliminate anything that I don't really want to have taken in the raw function. But I see my cameras as a spectrum. So if I want a really good wide angle and I want to play around at wide angle, um, then I use the iPhone and for the everyday stuff. But I always have my compact camera to bring in for gives me a much more sort of atmospheric shot if I'm going into places, especially with the Fujifilm, that I can do it in low light. So I interspace between the two and get a different feel to the pictures. Now, if I'm going to go on a macro hunt, I have the big camera. If I'm going to go and hunt the moon, I'll have the big camera. But it's almost like a spectrum. And I don't see the iPhone. I see my new iPhone upgrade as buying a new camera. I'm not buying an iPhone, I'm buying a new camera. So I know a lot of people say well, it's not really a camera, but to me, I'm taking a picture and I'm doing the composition. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I go along the spectrum of what I want to use it for and use it accordingly.
Is it your year to upgrade, Dammo?
It's my year to upgrade,
Have,
yes.
and have you gone for something? Have you gone for a pre-order or?
No, because of my last contract's October, end of October. So, and I'm debating whether to go for the Pro Max or the Pro. And all I can see the difference between the Pro Max and the Pro is the size of screen. And as I'm just after the camera, I'll probably go for the Pro and look forward to using the zoom and I like this idea that you can do video both front and back. So I'll have a play of that as well. That's something new. Um, and it's keeping up to date with it. It's a lot of money, yeah, and I see a lot of people taking really good pictures with iPhones much lower down the chain. Maybe I'm just one of these people that has to have the latest thing, I don't know.
No, I think you're right about the upgrade stuff. I'm on a 16 at the moment, a 16 Pro Max, so I won't be going to 17. The slight increase in the ability of the cameras is not worth upgrading. I've looked at the figures. I'd only get about £650 back for the camera, so I'm losing half its value in a trading. So yeah, so this will last me for another year before I go. And as I said, I think next year we may be looking at an iPhone Fold. So we'll see how that works out. But I still think it's a bit similar to the lens we spoke about earlier on, that the lens was a compromise, wasn't it? That you could have one lens to do an awful lot. I think the iPhone is the same sort of vehicle, isn't it? There's so much you can do with the iPhone just having it with you, but it's not going to compete in like a macro camera, as you said, for Ian, or a landscape camera for Dammo. You're going to use a specific tool for that job. But the old adage about it's the camera you've got with you, having the phone in your pocket, does give you the opportunity to take photographs that maybe you might miss with you having all your kit with you.
Yeah, I'm not convinced on the fold idea at all, and I'm not seeing a lot out there in the wild. And when I've seen people with them, I've seen like cracked screens and stuff because they've got screens on the outside as well, and they sit on them. And I'm not convinced, and I still don't see the use case for it. And from a photography point of view, are you going to have to open the phone to try and take a picture? Whereas in the moment you've got the convenience of I whip my phone out, I press the camera control button, I'm straight into the camera. With the fold, is it going to be more fiddly? You've got a massive screen. What's the battery life going to be like? I'm not convinced. I don't think Apple are convinced because I think they would have done it sooner if they felt it was worth doing.
Yes, that's a good point, Ian. The pointers at the moment are the new iPhone Air is approximately half the thickness of a standard iPhone. So putting two of those together, you could make a fold camera, which is a little
Mm,
thicker than the phone you've got at the moment. I've got a Samsung Fold 5 for work, and it's awful. It's a big, thick phone when you close it up. The screen on the front is so narrow, you can have problems typing, it's not work. And to be honest, I've maybe opened up the fold on it maybe half a dozen times in the times I've used it. There's been specific scenarios when the big screen has been great. I've been looking at plans or something like that. But for me, that phone, the fold doesn't work. But the new one, which is now thinner, lighter, bigger, it does look impressive. So I think Apple have resisted for a while, but maybe they may be looking at that might be the way to go. If the Air works, then all of a sudden they've got the capability to make a phone that would work as both an ordinary folded phone, and then when it unfolds, you've got almost like a mini iPad. But we'll see. We'll see.
I think the problem is though, like you see the compromise with the Air is it's got a single camera and the bump looks hideous, I think. If you put two of those together, you still got the same problem. You're not going to have the free camera setup that you've got now unless Apple do something that we're just, technology wise, that we're just not aware of. So, yeah, I don't think the Air's not obviously not aimed at us as people who use phones for photography. I think it's got too many compromises. I think it's a wonderful. I think what Apple have done is quite incredible, but it's not aimed at someone who's serious at photography. It's someone aimed at people who want a light phone that's small that sits away in their pocket, nice and tidy. But yeah, I don't see. Yeah, I'm still not convinced at all on the fold thing.
I think the sensor is starting to get a little bit bigger, so that makes a big difference to the quality of the pictures that you're going to get. But I do wonder what the future is going to be. There's so many variables coming with Apple politically under pressure from Trump to do in-house manufacturing. Do they go the fold? Can they make something different every year as the public are wanting? And what is that difference going to be? You've already mentioned some of the differences, Ian, like could be more like a camera, and therefore that will there be a separation from phone from camera? It's really interesting to know where they will go, or we will just be repeating the same for about 5, 6 years. It's difficult to know.
Okay, well, as I said, the future is there. We'll see what happens, but there's interesting pointers, and if you think back, only if just if talking well, the fold cameras have only been around 5 years, 6 years, and look at the way they leapt on. So, like all things, where we'll be in another 5 years' time will be incredible. But do you think? I don't think we'll ever see the removal of DSLRs. There's always going to be a key market for that type of equipment. You know, the phones are not going to replace that high level photography equipment that we need. The only thing that's missing now on my Canon R6 is I need a phone on it. If I had a phone on my Canon, I could be talking away on the phone while I take my photographs. Did anyone take pictures of the
Yes.
blood red moon?
Yes, I did. I got some of the pictures. I can put one up for you if you want, Martin. I can drop
Please
that
send
in
them
the
up.
folder.
Please send them up. We'll put them up here to have a look at. Yeah, I didn't. We were clouded out. We had nothing around here. I went out, even went to a high point to try and at me luck of getting me moon photograph, but no, still no joy yet. Okay, so that's our show for tonight. Hope you've all enjoyed that. Ian, any plots and plans for the next month or so, photography wise?
No, not really. But the boys gone back to football, so did a bit of that today. Got absolutely drenched. And if any viewers can solve this riddle for me, this problem, so I've got I had a rain cover over the lens and camera. That's great, but the front element still got absolutely plastered, and so most of the shots are no good because you had like sideways rain. So as soon as you wipe it, you take a few shots and it's smothered again. So camera was good, lens was good, rain cover over it, but it's sideways rain. So if anyone's got any bright ideas, let me know.
They'll just be silly ideas, Ian, like go back on a sunny day or think or have a photograph. Oh, I don't know, but yeah, I would imagine once it's raining, it must be a nightmare trying to keep a camera dry.
The only thing I could think of there would be something like barn door shutters that you have on a similar to a light that you could actually deflect them where which side the rain is coming at, left, right, up, down, or whatever. Okay. There's one for our viewers. Please drop us a line, drop us a hint. How does Ian avoid getting water on his lens?
Thing is, I was using a 70 to 200, and the lens hood is like that anyway, and the rain was still getting totally all over the front element. So I don't know. It just as Dammo says, I'll just do fair weather photography on it.
Dammo, what have you got planned for the next month?
Well, I've got a bit of weather watchers and I've enrolled into a new documentary course. We're looking at another suburb of Birmingham, so I'll be able to tell you more about that when we get to the next show.
Great stuff. Okay. Let's go to the guys. Ian, where can people get hold of you?
Yep, just Ian Lewis Photography on Instagram.
Okay. And Dammo, where can people get hold of you?
I'm Damien Wormsley, Dammo, and should be able to find me through that.
Okay. My name's Martin Kelly. You can get hold of me at martinkelly@mac.com or through the Flashbang Wallop website. I'll put the link up here below. Okay, so thanks very much for everyone for tuning in and watching our show. Hopefully we'll see you all next month. So it's good night from me and it's good night from the boys.
Bye.
Good night.